I always thought about harming myself.
I'm shy. I struggled with making friends.
I never thought I could do anything. I have extremely low self esteem.
Lately, I've been eating my pain away. Just throw it back up. I've been struggling to lose weight.
Somebody said I don't fit in just because I wear my hair the way I like it.
1 out of 5 American girls suffer from mental health problems. Don't be that girl. Talk to someone.
Those thoughts I had are long gone, for I have a future I need to get to.
In order to get better, I had to do better. I learned how to make friends.
I believe in myself. That's when everyone else did, I set an example.
Instead of me eating everything, I started watching my calories. The weight is falling off.
I wanted to change my hair, but I decided it was for me. It's for me.
A PSA from the Curvy Girl Project.
And good morning. Welcome to Expose Under the Sun, sponsored by the Detroit Native Sun newspaper. I am one of your hosts, and Suzanne is the other host, and I'll give her a chance to speak on who she is. There are dates that you tend to watch us, and we alternate Tuesdays, but this is kind of interesting for me, probably interesting for her at the same time too, because of the chairs that we sit in and then the opportunity to ask the other person questions when we're here. So again, you're watching Expose Under the Sun, sponsored by the Detroit Native Sun newspaper. And if you'd like to call in to the show today, our calling numbers are area code 313-868-0342, 313-868-0351, 313-868-4336. Website is www.tv33whpr.com. And you're watching us live from the phenomenal cities of Detroit, Michigan, under the auspices of the Honorable Mayor Mike Duggan, as well as the phenomenal city of Highland Park, Michigan, under the auspices of the Honorable Mayor Glenda McDonald. Today we're going to kind of take a little bit of a twist. So we're two hosts that will be interviewing each other. And it's kind of interesting for me because of the fact that when I do the show, I'm usually, putting the questions to my guests, but then it's going to be interesting today because my guest will be putting the questions to me at the same time too. So again, I just want to thank Tim for getting us on point today. Yes. And we appreciate Tim always. He's the board operational extraordinary individual that we love every Tuesday when we come on the show. But today, Suzanne, great to have you on the show with us today.
Thank you. I'm honored. I am Suzanne, or known as Silent Storm. That's my tribal name. I'm a chief and clan mother. I do a lot of empowerment for the community, and I'm honored to be here finally with my co-host Darwin. And yes, it's going to be interesting today. I'm just grateful, and he did take my seat, however.
Well, that's something because I thought about that and I was like, okay, I put you in the easier seat,
yes.
That instead of the hot seat.
I get it.
It
is cooler on this side, so I might have to claim this seat now.
Well, the other part that's so interesting in terms of saying the seat is that I'm used to having my face to Tim as opposed to having my back to Tim.
Same.
So I can kind of look and see, but I'll cue you in on different things that are going to come about.
Exactly.
From Tim when we're down to our last 10 minutes or 5 minutes with Tim is steady telling us, okay, it's time to wrap up.
Yeah. But I'll try to not turn my head to look.
But Suzanne, you've been quite busy in the community lately, and I know we were talking before the show, so we had to kind of cut our conversation a little bit before
We
we
did, because
started.
we almost had a full show before
Absolutely.
the show. So
The show before the show.
it normally happens that way.
So talk about, you've been doing some traveling. Talk about what you've been doing and talk about what you were, your goals that you had when you left to go
Sure.
out of state.
Okay, so recently it's been about a year now, paired with Denson L Group. They do a lot of mental health and recovery. That's the focus. My company, Fearless Minds, has partnered, and so I had an opportunity to go to Florida, Orlando. We have hotel licenses, travel licenses now. They invited me to be a part of that. So with that, I was down there to get certification. So I have my social work and specializing in trauma and substance abuse especially. So anything under the sun with mental health, which is my ministry with Fearless Minds, is mindset and mental health. My father took his life 7 years ago, so it's very important to me, to reframe how that looks for my family dynamic. And in turn, I've made that a ministry, a mindset ministry for the community as well. So it wasn't a vacation. It was beautiful weather in Orlando, but it was business. And we plan to work that out to be a treatment process to come to Florida and have different themed events and healing and using that as a tool.
Now, just I don't want to bring back a sad moment, but
No,
just,
absolutely. We need to talk about it.
when your father took his life, was that something that you were, was he on any kind of like medication, or was it something that was going on that you kind of knew where he may have had some issues pertaining to how coping skills?
Honestly, it hit us by surprise. My mother and father had been separated for a few months, but my father was 66 years old, so he was the strongest man I knew. It wasn't something that I would ever think he would do. He was afraid of death. He didn't even like to attend funerals or anything like that. So what we did uncover was that he did start a new medication. Understand he was a man who worked on cars all of his life. So all of the fumes and all of those things, he wasn't a man to wear a mask a lot of times. So just kind of thinking about why he would do that and just looking at what the doctors, there was new medication. So for, depression or something like that. I'm not exactly sure. I just know that how it felt, we're victims as well. So it's not only the person that takes their life, the whole dynamic of the family is shifted. So I didn't want that legacy or trauma to be generational curse to my family. So
Because you didn't want to be defined by that.
yeah,
Okay.
and a lot of people didn't even come out to the funeral because it's taboo. He's Jamaican, so they didn't support that. And so for me and my children, I wanted to reframe how that looked. And so I created Fearless Minds, and it's a mindset ministry that focuses on that. So I want to be in a position to leave people better than I left them.
So primarily, and I'm not really going to delve on that issue, but for some people that may have gone through the same thing what you went through,
Sure.
talk about how you were able to go and get through what had happened with your father.
So with me, during that time, I got really, really busy. I started pouring myself into renovating my house and reflecting on myself, and I recognized some things that could easily turn into what my father did in myself. So I got to work, actually. I got to work on my self-healing and really started to pour on myself. And it's been a 7-year journey since then. And since then, I've birthed a ministry. And I hate to say everything happens for a reason like that, but some things shifted even in my family for the better. And it was an awakening during that period. So I really did a lot of work on self-love, self-healing, and recognizing people outside of myself. Just paying closer attention, because oftentimes you'll have someone right next to you and you don't even know they're suffering in silence. So it's very important for me to really be engaged and pay attention to my people.
So what are some of the things that then, that you would pretty much like say to people to kind of let them know that to look for different traits. Look for things that other people around you might be doing. I mean, I'm sure that you've probably done some research on that, or
Sure.
you've probably done some
Yes.
introspection, on that. So if you were to advise some people, and we've had shows, I'm sure both of us have had shows
Yes,
talking
plenty
about
of
this
shows.
before. But what is it that you would recommend? I mean, we hear our guests telling us what they would recommend.
Sure.
What is it that you would recommend?
So, for self, I would recommend pouring into yourself. I often say we're like cell phones. If we don't charge our batteries, we deplete. So, recognizing when you're feeling bad and just taking time out, stopping to, what you're doing. If you're working a lot, I know I work a lot. So, taking time for yourself and then recognizing in your people, also getting better at reaching out to your friends. Don't just assume they're good. I'm always checking in on my people to make sure they're good. And when they're isolated, I kind of recognize that and, just give a call. It doesn't cost you anything, and it makes the person feel good. So I would say to keep engagement going in your circle. Just,
Yeah, and that's something I think that's very effective because I've talked about this before, on the show, that you have to go and pretty much like watch for the different signs.
You do.
That if somebody goes and starts to kind of withdrawing from a lot of friends, and especially from work or doing
Yes.
some other things, that's a sign to really kind of like look for.
For sure.
And my philosophy is that it's always best to go and ask questions, or to give somebody a call. You may be bothering them, you may be
Yes.
bugging them.
Yeah,
but
I don't care
I'd
anymore.
rather- right, I'd rather bug somebody
Yes.
than them tell me, well, look, will you stop? I'm fine, I'm all right. Rather than for me not to call
Exactly.
and then find out that something happened in that phone call that I may have done, to call them, might have kind of kept them on point,
Right,
on cue,
yeah.
on the something was going on.
It's just paying attention. I know with certain friends, they'll say hello, and I'm like, oh no, let's start that again because I don't like how that sounded. I have to lay eyes on you, so they know. And it's just even your contribution to the community is don't be mean. Don't be a certain way. Just be kind because you never know your words could impact them, or that could be the final nail in the coffin to succumb them to the illness. So I just say be kind, pay it forward, always do something that'll make somebody feel good.
And that's a good point to bring up, especially because when you talk about the school year, it started back up for a lot of children.
Yes,
I'm sure
yes.
your
A
children.
lot of
and,
anxieties.
exactly.
Mine are grown. I have a daughter left, 16. So
Well, I'll do the what people have probably told you many times before. You don't look like you'd have grown children.
thank you.
But,
Yes, 26, 25, 22,
I'm
and 16.
sorry. Did you say 26?
I did.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Well, like you said, you can look at a person and not be able to tell certain things, and I would never
Sure.
have guessed that you have a 26-year-old.
Well, I'm grateful for that.
But that's so funny because it was we took a group of young people up to Michigan Adventure last week, and when we were there, they had the little booth that had it set up to where you could guess your age, guess
Oh,
your
wow.
weight, or guess your birth month. And it was funny because I was talking to one of the other chaperones that was there, and I was like, well, this is the one that I think I'm going to do, and I'm going to let them try and see if they can guess what my age is.
And no lady showed up to that line, right?
Well, no, it was just so funny because when the lady that was doing that was there, and she was like, I usually mess up on the ages. And I'm like, well, let's see if you can guess mine correctly. So she looked at me and she went and she wrote down a number. And then after she wrote down the number, she asked me what my age was. Then when I told her, she was like, I could see the expression in her face.
Okay.
Because I'm into a lot of neurolinguistics, with
Yes.
people. And I was reading her body language and looking at her facial expression. And when I looked at her facial expression, I'm like, she missed it.
She
But I'm
missed
just
it.
wondering how much did she miss it by? And it was just interesting that she missed it by a whole lot.
Okay.
And she was like, oh, well, okay, well, you can pick any one of the prizes
Oh, my
that's in there.
goodness.
And they had some pretty big prizes because, a lot of times when you go to those amusement parks, you see the people carrying those great big stuffed animals.
Yes,
and you
you
kind of
do.
wonder, what is it that they won this from? Either shooting baskets or
Yeah, right. And
guessing
they don't make it
that.
easy. So
They sure
it's-
don't.
Yeah, you have to go through a lot of money to win a big prize.
And you're almost paying for the prize
You are.
that you won. But it was just so funny because then when I was carrying the stuffed animal around, it was so funny because all of the people that were there with us that I was chaperoning were like, oh, Mr. Darwin, how did you win that?
Right.
and folks were asking, well, so you won that for me? And I'm like, no, this was something that really, but it's just funny that looking at people, you can't tell, like you said earlier, you can't tell what they're going through, nor can you tell what they've been through.
For sure.
And just like you, I wouldn't have thought some of the things that you were saying about what happened in terms of, say, with your father, and with your family.
Yes.
And I know we've all gone through some of that.
Sure.
And nowadays it's getting to be so interesting because you usually can see, like sometimes with coworkers, some things that's going on with them. You usually can see sometimes with family, like with
Yes.
brothers or sisters. But sometimes the people that you're around 24/7, which could be like a spouse, could be a significant other, you really don't know
You don't know.
what they're going through.
Yeah, we get busy, and so that's why I say if you're not really paying attention, those who want to take their life, they will do it. It's a secret. It's a cover up. They smile when they don't want to smile. So it's just really being plugged into your people and recognizing those little things like, hey, sister so and so usually calls me every morning, or we have a coffee, we meet up, and just recognizing those things and actually reaching out to them.
So what else are you doing? I mean, we like you said, we had the show before the show.
Yeah, we did.
So
we
I
did.
know that you're doing so much, especially like in the community of the phenomenal city under Patrick Wembley, under
Yes.
the mayor out in Inkster. But what else is happening with you and the city of Inkster?
So currently, we still are housing our veterans. So we've actually opened up our community services to the regular population now because it's an overwhelming response of homelessness. I'm seeing a lot of homeless women 60 and up now. They'll call.
Why do you think that? Especially at that age, at 60
honestly,
and up.
I think it's a generation where the husbands were working. They were sort of at home with the children, and now that the husbands are passing away, they're left to fend for themselves. And that's just what I'm seeing literally. And so they're in these hotels, and their churches might be paying for them to stay there, but they don't know where to go. They're waiting until they're evicted, and then, they find us. And so we're trying to resolve that. We're in negotiations now to take ownership of a hotel of 70 plus. And so we have a lot of things that we have.
Still in the Wayne County area?
Wayne County area,
Okay.
yes. And resources like diapers, Focus Hope, we're partnered with. So we're trying to figure out ways that we can actually make a difference in the community, not only of Inkster, but Wayne County, period. And then, working it out beyond in different states. But we have to start at home first.
So are there any obstacles that you're meeting, or with somebody, let's say one of our viewing audience?
You know what? There's
might be
not
able
a
to
lot of
assist?
help. So it's myself and my partners, direct partners that are hands-on, boots to the ground. But we need funding. We're operating out of our own pockets. So the capital and just the manpower is very demanding. We get calls from young mothers that have no diapers left or resources, and they don't have transportation. That seems to be a common thing too. Even with our veteran community, there's no transportation. So it's just partnering with people. I have friends who are helping us with the workforce type of thing. So structuring them to be fed first, and then helping them with their spirit or mindset, and then actually helping them to resolve that dynamic and equip them with tools, like workforce tools to have an income so that they can get out of what they're in.
And that's something I do in terms of, say, with some of the organizations that I'm involved in, is to talk to people, especially trying to get their skill sets and then their employability skill building,
Yes,
with
yes.
them, because that's something that's kind of interesting, because I think as people get older, they think that they're less in demand
For sure.
for the abilities that they bring and the expertise that they bring. And, we talk about relationships over the age of 50, but then we need to talk more about employability skill building
Sure.
for over the age of 50, as well, because a lot of people, I used to be on the Work First program in Detroit, and that was one of the biggest things that we had an issue with, was helping people to try and find gainful employment
Yes.
during the time that they were out looking for jobs. And it seems like right now, a lot of people talk about the job market now is changing, to the point to where there are a lot of employers that are having difficult times
Yes.
trying to find people to work. And some are giving hiring bonuses, to individuals.
Sure.
And that's one of the things that we talk about, especially like the things that I do with the Michigan Democratic Party Ballot Caucus, as well as to some other things that I do with other organizations that, I sit on boards with or I'm actively involved with. But one thing that I was going to say is that people need to realize, don't give up
Yes, yes.
in your employment search and opportunities that you may be seeking, because everybody goes through, I think, like 3/3 of their careers.
For sure.
You got the first, the second, and the third. People in their 50s or their late 50s are going through their third in their career.
Yes.
You're young, so you get an opportunity to see, maybe like if you're in your second third of your career, to see what things that you might have aspirations to do. And, when I look at people like someone that just came into our studio, Claudine Jackson, and I'm seeing her,
Yes.
and it's like she, as I think that unless you've been somewhere, I don't know where you may live in the United States or even in the world, and don't know who Claudine Jackson is, and know who her husband was,
Yes.
and that was Purvis Jackson of the Spinners. And and my heart goes out to her, especially with her ministry that she does, pertaining to hers and Purvis Jackson's son. And then good friends of mine, Cindy and her other daughter that I know and love so well. But there's still, you never stop, you never give
stop.
up, you
No.
never rest on the things that you could teach other people. And just like in this show with us today, we've got to do this again.
We definitely do. And getting to know you, like I've intended for us to do this a long time ago. It's been a year already for me that I've been in the seat, which it's just flown by. And I see Sharon is giving us a shout out. Even often I will quote her. She says she's been helping and serving people for over 40 years. And, she just looked up one day and it had been that time. So I'm just honored that I consider myself chosen by God to help and to have the resources and the people to help me along this way, because it's important to give back. It's important to support and also have a network that will help you to do that as well.
Well, like something that Jesse Jackson, I quote him a lot in terms of say with this adage is that knowledge is something that shouldn't be hoarded, but it should be shared.
Yes.
And just like, we have the ability to give Sharon credit because Sharon is the one that, kind of an interesting opportunity where she had asked me to take her to the station one day
Okay.
when she was doing the show. And, and here I was kind of like Les Brown, how I'm just listening to all of the little things
Yeah,
that
right.
she's saying and doing. And I'm like, okay, saying to myself, well, I can do it. And then you got to always be ready for that opportunity
Oh,
if
yes,
it comes
absolutely.
about. And then there was a time when she had said, well, she couldn't go to the station to do the show and asked me would I go. And I'm like,
That sounds like a
well,
setup.
Well,
A
it
beautiful
was kind
setup.
of just an opportunity
Yes.
to kind of be ready because you never know when
never
somebody
know.
may come along. And just like I'm sure, I'll keep bringing Miss Jackson into the picture with
Sure.
the Spinners, that here when you have one of the Spinners that may not have been able to go and perform, the show still goes on.
It still does, yes.
And that's the key thing. And then if you have a situation where if somebody makes a transition, the show still goes on as well.
has to,
So a lot
yes.
of times, like what myself and Ms. Sharp talked about last week, was talking about icons in the music business. And a lot of people don't really realize that there are a lot of icons that are still with us, but there are some icons that aren't still with us.
Yes.
So the music still goes on.
It still goes on. And it's important to give them their flowers while they're still here and the
Absolutely.
recognitions. And so I do want to honor you and thank you for your work because I see you doing great things. And it's an honor to sit here in the seat with you. So thank you.
Even if I'm in your seat that
That's
you normally
okay,
sit in
right.
on Tuesdays. Then.
Technical seat.
But we'll have to do this again because I think the thing is that it's good that every day that God wakes us up, it gives us an opportunity to do more things.
Yes.
And a lot of times people think that you have to be inspired more so by people that are doing it, whereas you can still be inspired by people who may want to do it,
Absolutely.
but just don't have the ability to get out there and do it.
That's right. And there's many ways that they can help, even just by supporting in our work or other people's work in the community. So it's just being intentional with our time now, and especially with everything that's going on in the world, it's just being intentional to be part of the solution instead of the problem.
And it's also, you have a direction and you learn from the wisdom that others have. Because, when we see that gray, people don't think about that being a crown of
Yes,
wisdom.
yes.
And, I think a lot of times people don't really realize, and that's one of the things I ask a lot of young people to do, listen to the seniors, listen to your mothers, listen to your grandparents.
Yes, absolutely.
Because there's a lot of wisdom that's conveyed from them. They've been there, done that. So it's just a matter of taking the time to listen to them and take notes.
Yes.
And in other cases, what they're doing is they're trying to make sure you don't have to go through some of the same challenges.
Right.
that they
I
went
wish
through.
I would have listened earlier.
Well, I think we
I
all
pay
do.
attention now. I love listening to my elders because I don't want to make any more mistakes than I have to. I know there's lessons that we have to go through. So I don't look at things as failures. I look at it as lessons for the blueprint of our calling. So we have to go through those. But I love to be surrounded by wisdom. I'm a sponge, and I can pour into people too. But it's an even exchange that happens. So I appreciate that.
And you're so right, because the thing is that you have to go. There's always a lesson learned from anything that occurs, in your life. And just like even with what you were saying about the loss of your father, there was still a lesson that was able to be learned,
Absolutely, yes.
from that. And I know Tim has put the sign up saying we've got a couple minutes left. So I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you to give your website or give your contact information,
Absolutely.
so that if somebody did want to volunteer to assist or to donate, money or get more information, about your organization, please give it.
Okay, so you can reach me on social media platforms. Fearless Minds is the name. FearlessMinds.com is the website, and the phone number is 313-799-3072. And, just feel free to reach out. I post a lot in our social media, so if you need any resources, we have plenty, and we have partners. If we don't have something, I will do my best to figure out what it is that you need, and we will connect you.
And I guess that we definitely would be remiss too if we didn't again give thanks to Ms. Sharon Dumas. Or,
Yes,
I'm sorry. Let me
yes.
rephrase that. 'Cause
Yes,
she'll
you
probably
have
say
to.
something. Dr. Sharon Dumas. She just
Doctor.
recently was awarded her doctorate.
Amazing.
So we have to make sure that we give her, honor in terms of say that she has been doing so much with the Curvy Girl Project.
Yes, and my daughter is a curvy girl too, so that means a lot to me because her work does show. I've seen the direct transformation in my own daughter, so I applaud you. We applaud you, Sharon, for all your work, and we thank you and love you and appreciate you.
And I know one other thing that we'd be remiss if we didn't say was that we want to congratulate Ms. Delisa Beavers.
Oh, yes.
That's one of Sharon's executive directors with her Urban Solutions, her Curvy Girl Project, that she just recently gave birth to I know the phrase is a bouncing,
Yeah.
baby girl who's like 7 pounds, 1 ounce, and her name is
awesome.
Courtney Love. So again, congratulations to Delisa,
Yes,
to her
congratulations.
brothers, and everyone else in the family. But we're about to wrap up. Thank you. You've been watching Expose Under the Sun, sponsored by the Detroit Native Sun newspaper. And next week, we will have an opportunity to go and bring you more news in the community, as well as giving you information about resources, just as Suzanne just shared with us earlier.
Yes.
Have a great rest of the morning, and we will see you soon.
Here at the Full and Fabulous Curvy Girl Project, we don't just focus on health, beauty, and self-esteem. We also offer an amazing summer program for young ladies ages 12 to 18. For more information, visit our website at fullandfabulous.org. See you soon.